Behind me is the start of the internet. Not a website, not Google, but a Cold War blueprint on how to keep communication alive during a nuclear attack. That document was written by this man, Paul Barant. He was an engineer at Rand Corporation, and in the early 60s he was given a simple brief by the US military. Design a communication system that could still work after a nuclear strike. In 1964, he publishes this. It's called On Distributed Communications Networks. This is an 11-volume study. His research concluded that distributed, decentralized networks are by far the safest. When you have no central hub that can be destroyed and packets that can route around damage, you can keep the network going even if multiple nodes are taken out. So ARPANET, the first version of the internet, was built deliberately on these principles, and it had no central server, no single point of control. Think of ARPANET like the raw road system, like if they put down a motorway, just motorway, no exit signs. All ARPANET did was shuttle little packages between government and university computers. But there's still no Google, no browsers, not much of an interface happening for general users. This is Tim Berners-Lee, and in 1989 he added that missing layer, the World Wide Web. He invented three things that ARPANET did not have: URLs, HTMLs, and the idea that you could click a URL to get to the next HTML. In plain terms, links and pages. Before him, the internet had nothing to click, a motorway with no off-ramps. www gave us something that ordinary people could actually use. Tim built the World Wide Web on two explicit principles: decentralization, no permission needed to use the internet, no central controlling node, no single point of failure, no kill switch. His second principle was net neutrality. That means making it freely available. No patents, no ownership, no royalties. Tim Berners-Lee is the most important living engineer that you've probably never heard of unless you studied computer science. His decision to launch the World Wide Web with these two foundational ethical principles is the only reason that the last 30 years have not been the Orwellian, dystopian, digital dictatorship of your nightmares. He persuaded CERN to release the World Wide Web protocol as open source instead of patenting it. That was the decision that allowed the internet to bloom, and it was a political one, not a technical one. If he had just followed orders, we would not have net neutrality or decentralization. Those are the only things keeping you safe online. Without those principles, we would have had an internet where you needed a corporate or government license to publish anything at all. This was in 1989. By 2018, I have a quote from Tim Berners-Lee that says, "The web has evolved into an engine of inequality and division, swayed by powerful forces who use it for their own agenda." So he launched Solid, a project to let users store their own data in personal pods instead of handing it to Google and Facebook. The man who invented the internet has spent the last decade trying to take it back from the corporations who've enclosed it. Decentralization is not a tech bro buzzword. It is a 3-decade fight by people who seen what's coming. This is Phil Zimmermann. In 1991, he created Pretty Good Privacy, the first encryption tool for email. He specifically says that he designed this so that ordinary people could send emails without the government and corporations spying on them. The US government investigated this man for 3 years under arms export laws for doing that. The Tor project was built in 2002 by a network of decentralized volunteers using layers of encryption to protect users from being spied on when they use the internet. Mastodon is a social network made up of thousands of small, independently run servers that speak to each other. It was created as a direct response to Twitter's centralized ownership. Signal is an app that was created by the cryptographer Moxie Marlinspike and is run by the Signal Foundation. Their explicit goal was to create a platform where no company or government could ever read your messages, even if they wanted to, because the encryption is so scrambled. Every one of those projects was built because the people who understand this technology best could see clearly what centralized control is leading us to. They were not confused about the stakes, and they have dedicated their lives to building safety infrastructure for you. Big tech does not make any money from hosting our social lives, and nothing can just exist under capitalism without needing to make money for someone. So big tech found a way to make itself more profitable, and it makes its money by surveilling you and predicting what you'll do next. This is what's called surveillance capitalism, turning your behavior into data and then turning that data into predictions and then selling those predictions to advertisers. That business model only works if big tech can see everything that you do, keep you on their platform as long as possible, and deny you any alternative. Decentralized applications like the ones I just mentioned attack big tech's business model. If people move away from these big tech platforms like TikTok and Meta and into what's called the Fediverse, which is the decentralized internet, these platforms that don't track you, your posts might sit on someone's small, eco-efficient server down in Bristol instead of in Meta's massive centralized data center. Your private messages no longer pass through their servers, and your community might be moderated by people who don't care about maximizing engagement hours. That means less data for big tech to harvest, less time inside their platforms, and less power for them to decide which voices go viral and which disappear. Decentralization and Web3 were specifically designed by activists over 3 decades to stop the corporate capture of the internet, to break the monopoly. From big tech's perspective, a truly decentralized internet is an existential risk to them. And that is why they built the Online Safety Act. The Online Safety Act has made running one of these decentralized local community servers a legal and financial risk. When it first came into force in March 2025, over 300 small forums were forced to shut down. This is not collateral damage or the price we should pay to keep children safe online. This is the structure of the Online Safety Act. The children part is just stickered on top. This duty of care model requires corporate compliance capacity. So anyone running any kind of small server needs to have an entire compliance and risk structure, risk assessment, code of practice, age verification, and a legal responsibility to police the platform locally. The Online Safety Act treats this centralized model, this big tech model, as the only way the internet can exist. And if you think that's the only way the internet can exist, then the Online Safety Act feels like safety. It looks strict, it hits big tech with fines. But what it does structurally is makes everyone more dependent on the platforms it says it's policing, because they are the only ones who can afford the infrastructure required to comply with this. It relies on your technological ignorance to alternatives and the future of tech. What you are being sold as safety sells your children into a structure of dependency, where the next generation of internet users are locked into a model that is already failing them. That's not keeping children safe. That's dismantling their future sovereignty. That's putting them in a cage.